The sun had dipped behind the jagged peaks, leaving the high valley in a bruised purple twilight when Elias Crow guided his mule down the switchback trail toward the sprawling ranch below. He was a big man, broad through the shoulders, beard gone mostly gray, eyes the color of storm clouds. 10 years in these mountains had carved him lean and hard, teaching him to move quiet and speak quieter. He carried a rifle he rarely needed and a bedroll that smelled of pine smoke and solitude. At the gate, a hand waved him through without question. Word traveled fast when a stranger rode in from the high country. The ranch house itself was new built, timber and stone hauled in at great expense, windows glowing warm against the cold. Elias tied his mule and stepped onto the porch, boots thudding heavy on fresh pine boards. The door opened before he could knock. Harlan Whitaker stood there in a clean wool shirt, sleeves rolled once, showing forearms still strong from years of roping and riding before money softened him. 45, maybe 50, with dark hair only just beginning to silver at the temples and eyes that had seen too many empty rooms. He looked Elias over once, slow, then stepped aside. "You're late," Harlan said, voice low and even. "Supper's cold." "Didn't know I was expected," Elias replied, but he stepped inside anyway. The house smelled of beef stew and coffee strong enough to wake the dead. A fire crackled in a stone hearth big enough to roast an elk. Everything was fine, too fine. Navajo rugs on the floors, crystal decanters on a sideboard, books bound in leather that had never been read. It felt like a stage set waiting for actors who never arrived. Harlan poured 2 cups of coffee and handed one over without asking if Elias wanted it. Their fingers brushed. Neither man flinched, but something shifted in the air, like the moment before thunder. "You've got good water here," Elias said, nodding toward the window where the creek flashed silver in the last light. "Best in the territory," Harlan answered. "Cost me plenty to buy it." Elias drank. The coffee burned going down, the way he liked it. He studied Harlan over the rim of the cup. The man's wife had died 5 years ago, folks said. No children. The ranch hands lived in bunkhouses a quarter-mile off. Nights here must stretch long and quiet. Harlan set his cup down. "You're the one they call the mountain man. The one who don't come down but once a year." "That's me." "Stay the night," Harlan said. It wasn't quite a question. Elias considered the darkening sky outside, the long ride back to his cabin. He nodded once. They ate in silence, stew thick with carrots and venison Harlan swore came from his own hunt. Afterward, Harlan poured whiskey, real Kentucky bourbon, not the rotgut sold in town. The fire settled into steady flames. Elias leaned back in his chair, boots stretched toward the heat. "You built all this alone." "Bought it alone," Harlan corrected. "Built it with hired hands." "Same difference." The whiskey warmed Elias's chest. He watched Harlan's hands, long fingers, nails clean, but calloused across the palms. Hands that still knew work even if they didn't have to anymore. Harlan refilled their glasses. "You ever get lonely up there?" Elias huffed a soft laugh. "Mountains keep good company. They don't talk back, but they don't talk at all," Harlan said quietly. Silence stretched, thick as the smoke curling from the hearth. Outside, wind rattled the windows. Elias set his glass down. "Some men are born for quiet. Some ain't." Harlan's gaze lifted, direct now. "Which one are you?" Elias didn't answer right away. He studied the other man, the faint lines around his eyes, the way his mouth tightened when he thought no one noticed. Something raw and hungry lived behind those careful manners. "I manage," Elias said at last. Harlan rose and crossed to the window, staring out at the black shapes of pines. "I used to ride with a crew. 20 hands. Always someone talking, laughing, cursing. Now it's just me and the wind." Elias watched the straight line of Harlan's back. He stood, slow, and moved to stand beside him. Close enough to feel the heat coming off the man. "You could hire more hands," Elias said. "I don't want more hands." Harlan turned. They were inches apart now. "I want." He didn't finish. Didn't have to. Elias reached out, slow enough that Harlan could step away. He didn't. Elias's rough thumb brushed the corner of Harlan's mouth, tracing the shape of it like testing new snow for depth. Harlan's breath caught. His hand came up, fingers closing around Elias's wrist, not pulling away, just holding. Please, Harlan whispered, so low the fire almost swallowed it. Let me put the tip. The words hung raw between them, bold and trembling at once. Elias's eyes darkened. He leaned in until their foreheads touched, beard scraping against smooth-shaven skin. Just the tip, Elias murmured, voice gravel and smoke. Harlan's laugh came out shaky. A man can hope for more. Elias's hand slid to the nape of Harlan's neck, gripping firm. He kissed him then, not gentle, not rough, but certain. Harlan opened to it like a man too long in drought-tasting rain. Hands clutched at wool shirts, at leather belts, urgency rising fast and fierce. They stumbled toward the wide leather sofa by the fire. Harlan pushed Elias down first, straddling him, mouth hungry on his throat. Elias's big hands mapped the lines of Harlan's back, the slope of his shoulders, learning him by touch. Buttons gave way, shirts fell open, skin met skin, furnace hot. Harlan's breath hitched when Elias's calloused palm slid down his chest, over the flat stomach earned from years of hard riding. Lower. Elias paused. Sure about this? Harlan answered by rocking forward, pressing himself against Elias's thigh, letting him feel how sure. They shed the rest slow, deliberate, eyes locked. Firelight painted gold across muscle and scar. Elias bore marks from bare claws in a Comanche arrow long ago. Harlan's skin was smoother but not soft. When they came together naked, it was with a shared groan that echoed off the log walls. Harlan reached for the small tin of salve he kept in a drawer. Practical man, prepared for hurts that came from long days in the saddle. He slicked his fingers, then Elias's, guiding, showing without shame what he wanted. Elias took his time, one finger first, slow circles, watching Harlan's face for every flicker. Harlan's head fell back, throat exposed, breath coming in ragged pulls. More, Harlan whispered. Elias gave it. 2 fingers now, stretching careful, finding that spot that made Harlan jerk and curse softly. The rancher's hand fisted in Elias's hair, pulling him into another bruising kiss. When Harlan pushed Elias onto his back and rose above him, eyes wild, Elias didn't stop him. Harlan took him in hand, stroking firm, then guided the blunt head to where he ached. Please, Harlan said again, voice broken open. Let me put the tip. Elias thrust up just enough. Harlan sank down slow, inch by inch, breath hissing through teeth. The heat, the grip, stole both their voices for a long moment. When Harlan bottomed out, they stayed still, trembling, foreheads pressed together. Then Harlan began to move. Slow at first, rising and falling, finding rhythm. Elias's hands clamped on his hips, guiding harder, deeper. The sofa creaked beneath them. The fire popped and flared. Sweat slicked their skin. Harlan rode him fierce now, head thrown back, mouth open on silent cries. Elias watched every second, memorizing the sight of this proud man undone. When release hit Harlan, it bowed his spine and tore a low, guttural sound from his throat. Elias followed moments later, pulling Harlan down against his chest, spilling deep with a growl that rumbled through both of them. They stayed locked together long after, breathing slowing, hearts hammering against each other. The fire burned low. Harlan's fingers traced idle patterns through the hair on Elias's chest. Stay, he whispered into the quiet. Elias's arm tightened around him. Till morning, he allowed. But neither man slept much that night. Hands wandered again before dawn, mouths exploring new territory. By the time pale light crept through the windows, they had learned each other twice more, once slow and reverent by the dying fire, once urgent against the kitchen table when coffee forgotten went cold a second time. Outside, snow began to fall, soft and silent, blanketing the valley. Inside, 2 men lay tangled in sheets that smelled of smoke and sex and something new neither had named yet. The day stretched ahead, full of possibility.